Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday Forum. I'm Stacy Kleiman, your host. This morning, we are privileged to have Joseph Jock and Fargan Neem, who will be speaking to us about St. Luke's pilgrimage to East Africa in the summer of 2022. But before I introduce them, let us pray. O God, because without you, we are not able to please you, mercifully grant that your Holy Spirit may in all things direct and rule our hearts. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever.
Amen.
So Joseph Jock and Fargan Neem are both former refugees from South Sudan and have served in staff and board positions at St. Luke's. Joseph has served 2 decades as a case manager helping refugees resettle in San Diego and is also a court language interpreter. Fargan is finishing up her associate's degree at City College and next heading to SDSU to keep developing her interests in both creative writing and computer science. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Joseph Jock and Fargan Neem.
Good morning. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, everyone, for coming. As I just said, my name is Joseph Jock. I'm very happy to be here today. And first of all and foremost, I want to thank St. Paul Cathedral because they contributed a lot towards our trip to Africa. Their generosity made it possible for us to go to this trip. And it's a very unique trip that has changed, many perspectives about people who have never been there in Africa. But first of all, I just wanted to give you some brief idea about the refugee. How did they end up in St. Luke? St. Luke, the diocese is known to where most of the refugees who fled conflict in their country now go to. So the first refugee who came to San Diego, it was in 1995. One of the first Sudanese who came here. He went to church in La Jolla, Episcopalian, and then, but he lived here around in North Park. So then he was directed since you live there, so there is a church there, you can go there. And then from there he met with Father David Manzingo. And from there, it's like he told Father David that, some years back your church would be full with many refugees. It's like prophecy, and it did happen. So truly, some years later, there was many refugees who will go to St. Luke, and I came to the United States in 1998. It's like 3 years later, among the second group of refugees who came here. Fargan's parents, she was a little girl when she come here. Now she's like 5 years old. And yeah, so basically that's a little bit about St. Luke. Now the idea why do we decided to go on that trip? We decided to go to that trip for many reasons. First of all, we wanted to reconnect with the global Anglican community that part of our communion here in the United States and Africa. Secondly, as you know, that we came as refugees. Many of us has lived in a camp, and most of us were displaced. It's not by choice. We were forced to flee our country to come to the United States. And then we had to live in a certain country, different country, because being a refugee, first you leave your country, you go to a different country, with hope that you may be resettled, because most of refugees end up for many years, maybe 2 years, 3 decades, living in a camp. Not all the refugees are lucky to come to the United States like we did. So that's part of it. We wanted to reconnect, to visit some of our refugees that we left back there, especially the newest group of refugees who are now in St. Luke, are from Congolese. and they came to the camp of Nyarugusu in Tanzania. So 4 members of our delegation was asked to visit the camp. So the total people who embarked on that trips, we were 18 people, about 18. And we divided into 2 groups. First group went to South Sudan. This group along with Father Colin and 6 other Sudanese. And then the other group went to Uganda. And the trip that went to South Sudan, we spent about 1 week in South Sudan and then joined the main group in Uganda. And from there we went to Tanzania, where the Nyarugusu refugee camp is. The themes are why we wanted to do that. We wanted to be transformed together. So we started with what God began, we seek to deepen. We wanted to deepen our relationship with the people that were left there. Some of them feel hopeless because they were in the camp and other family are here in the United States. And also, the other thing, we need to reconnect with family. Fajin was able to meet with her family, and myself, many of us as family members, after many years of separation. And finally, we want also to enjoy the natural beauty of Africa. So which is something that is amazing and beautiful. As far as all the trips, I'll let Fajin, because she's the youngest member of the trips, and she captured all the trip but it's mean, and I would have her to talk about what she see, her perspective about the trips, and then we'll have time for more questions later on. And also I want to thank Dean Bridges. She also helped us when we were planning to go to South Sudan. She made a connection for us to be able to find a place to stay there. For the connection that she suggested, we ended up staying in Episcopal compound in Juba, which is a nice place and was safe. Thanks. So now I'm going to have Fajin talk about her experience.
Thank you, Joseph. Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me and Joseph here. I'm so grateful, and I just kind of wanted to share a little bit of what I took away from this trip and what it meant to me and how that deepened my faith in God. So, I was blessed to have been one of the delegates who traveled to South Sudan, Uganda, and Tanzania. And it was very eye-opening, and it was life-changing for me, especially because ever since my family resettled here in 2003, I came here very young, 5 years old, and I have no clue or any idea about what South Sudan was like, what my home was like. Here in the States is my home, truly, because even though I'm Sudanese heritage, I'm American raised and I have American values and ideas. So it was an opportunity for me to kind of reconnect with my heritage and my roots. So, I'm grateful to have gone because I was able to see a land where, so many Sudanese, and including my family, fled from. And we found a place that was at peace, and it was lively and beautiful in its own way. I had the opportunity to also visit an IDP camp and a refugee camp, where the people living there welcomed me like I was one of their own. I got to see my great-grandma, my great-granduncle, and other relatives for the first time. In situations like that, when you have an opportunity like that, one of the sayings we say in Arabic, and so you'll hear Sudanese people say it all the time, but you'll also hear Arabic-speaking nationals say all the time. We say, Allah Karim. Allah Karim, which means that God is generous. He is honorable. We say this phrase when things are going right, they're going good, and also when things aren't turning out so well. We say Allah Karim at weddings, at birthdays, for newborns, at new opportunities, when we get a new job, or when we find good luck. But we also, I say, Allah Kareem during times of hardship and struggle, like times of war and poverty, when friends or family die, when our cars break down, when there's nothing else that we can do to rectify a bad situation. The basis of this phrase, Allah Kareem, is tied to the idea of hope and faith. It's a reminder that God has boundless generosity, and He will help us overcome. We just need to trust in Him. But as you guys know, sometimes trust and faith and hope are not easy to come by. They're not hard to hold on to when you're having a crisis. We become so focused on our struggles that we lose sight of where God's presence is. And we don't see where He's working. That realization might come after the fact. It might come later when everything is said and done. The most faithful person I know is my mom. Allah Kareem is her favorite saying. And she always says it to me when I need to hear it, which is always also precisely the moment when I don't actually want to hear it. When I'm having a crisis and I'm irritated, I want to fix my problem now. I don't want to wait for God. That might be today, it might be next week. But my mom is unwavering in her belief that God will work things out. When I ask her how, she says, Allah Kareem. When I ask her when, she says, Allah Kareem. I tell her, Mom, God is not going to pay this very expensive AT&T bill for me. She just says, Allah Kareem. There's no ifs or ands or buts. God is generous and will help you overcome. But my brain is not wired to think like that. I'm a nitpicker, a contemplator. I think in cause and effect. I see a problem, I want a solution. I want details. I want a timeline, so give me an ETA. Show me the way. Give me a map. I want one of the most coveted things anyone could want, which is control. I want to be in control of my circumstances, a master of my fate. I want to steer the ship. But when I went on this delegation trip, I put myself in the most uncontrolled situation possible. Here I was in these countries I've never been to before. I didn't speak any of the languages beyond some Arabic. My friends were with me, but we were surrounded by strangers and dependent on their goodwill. I had no control. We, the delegation, had no control over what we were going to find, what was ahead of us, if our path would go smoothly. We were like lambs being sent amongst wolves, like disciples. All we had was faith in God and hope that things will work out, that we would meet good people. And we did, and they were. They were amazing. They were beautiful, they were funny, they were welcoming, and they were very generous. We encountered hurdles, and it was people who helped us. When our bus broke down in the middle of our nearly 24-hour journey to the refugee camp in Gusu in the middle of the night, it was Good Samaritans who helped us. They changed our tire and fixed our leaky gas tank. When we needed help finding a hotel to stay for the night, it was a kind gentleman who made several trips back and forth transporting us. When we visited the refugee camp in Tanzania, we were welcomed and hosted like brothers and sisters. They prepared what little food they had and shared it with us. The same thing was done at the IDP camp in South Sudan. They went out literally in the morning. Someone went out, caught some fishes from the river, and the ladies cooked for us. When I went searching for my great-granny, who I'd never met, it was with my cousin escorting me and her neighbors pointing out directions. When we visited the Presbyterian Church in South Sudan, it was to a grand celebration. We were welcomed like kings and queens. They clothed us in ceremonial garbs and gave us hand-woven crosses. We had our feet washed, and they danced and sang. So in this situation, I say, Allah Kareem. God is generous. We just need to wait, have hope, and have faith. Like it says in Psalms 27:13-14. I believe I shall see the Lord's goodness in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Take courage. Be stout-hearted. Wait for the Lord. It's only with hindsight that I see how generous He truly is. I see how closely we were guarded in uncertainty. Naive as we were about the lands we were in and about the people around us. I see how at peace I felt when I finally chose to trust in Him to take care of me. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to show you some of the photos. Some of the pictures speak for themselves. And part of the trips, this is picture taken when we visit Presbyterian Church. We had a meeting, a planning meeting. So one of the group that we found very organized. We found that they already have slogan welcoming us, St. Luke, and then on Sunday when we went, so that's when they did all this, like this of them, welcoming us. Our food was washed. So let me go with slide. Yeah, so we were having fun there at the church. So we visit many, among them school. So this is the sign that they have made.
Speeding up
So first thing when we, South Sudan is still at war, and we had some concern about safety of the delegation we went. However, inside the Juba, it's peaceful, but it's a volatile situation. Anything can happen at any time. It happened twice in 2013 and 2016, where the two, vice president and president forces fought each other. Many people were killed. So as we left Juba, going to IDP camps in Mangala, one of the bishops was going with us, and then just as we left, the driver was going, they're still working on the road, Terminal Road, but I think the driver veered a little bit to the road, but there was no sign saying that you cannot drive this way. He just drove. A guy was angry, came with Kashiko. And that was like the first scary moment we saw, oh my God. And then he was just pointing the gun at us. And then the driver explained, the good thing so there, they still have respect for bishop and priest. And bishop saying, we didn't mean to drive here. We didn't know because it was not marked. There was no sign that saying you can't drive this way. So that was like the first encounter. Father Colin was there, was calm, told him, Father Colin, if you be calm, they will handle the situation.
Yeah.
So then after that, we went to Mangala, and it was a very good place. Mangala is about 30 miles from the north of Juba. As displaced came of refugee, a lot of internally displaced people who was forced to leave their villages by flooding. That happened in 2020. There was a lot of flooding in that area. The entire area, was forced to leave. So then they went in the camp. They started to, settle there, build their churches, and they welcomed us, and we had a good time with them. So, finally, you can also jump in if you want to explain some of the stuff.
Oh, this is me, my pen.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. That's my great granny. And my great grandma. And my cousin. So I was meeting these people for the very first time.
My grandma she used to say, if you guys don't come visit us, all you'll find is a grave. So I said, I have to visit this one. But this,
Yeah, you want to talk about Mangaten IDP camp, the orphanage?
I'm fighting with this presentation here.
But yeah, we had an opportunity to visit the Mangaten orphanage, and we met a lot of kids who were orphans, and they were the orphanage itself was a bit destitute. I think they were being helped by the Presbyterian Church. Is that correct, Joseph?
Yes.
Yeah, it was kind of under their purview, but so they were doing what they can to help the orphanage, but I think they were in dire straits, so we were able to contribute some of what the funds we brought along with us to help them a bit.
Yeah, so what was shocking is like when you see the orphanage, you see there's some beds, some food, but they don't know they live by day. They were actually evicted from the place where they used to live in, and some lady was just taking care of it. Sometimes you go send them to the markets as little baby to go and beg for money so that they can buy something to eat the next day. So it was like very painful to see that. Governments of Sudan, South Sudan is not doing anything. Obviously, the resources are focusing on building the army to fight, but there's nothing being prepared to help people who are most vulnerable. In Uganda, we had a lot of fun there. Uganda was the most beautiful place there, and we were able to go visit. Some of us who went there visit museum, and then also we visit the national park, which is beautiful, and we had a lot of fun there. So this is something. Mother Laura went with other team, and they met with delegation there. They visit a lot of people there in Uganda.
this one is one of my favorites.
Yeah. This is actually when we were coming back after all the thing. So we were coming to United States the next day. So everything was calm. Mother Laura and Father Colin were relaxed. Tomorrow we're going back. So there was we went shopping at African fabrics store in Uganda.
Yeah,
So,
and we actually bought some of these fabrics. I think we were trying to match some of the colors that we use during Easter and during Christmas, so that we could use some of those fabrics instead.
Okay, so we also visit Ruse. Ruse is our St. Luke Enterprise Management, which is secretary and does a lot of things in St. Luke. This is the school, high school that she went to, and it's a big boarding high school that's brought a lot of girls from different part of Uganda, and it's an amazing tradition of Christian tradition. It's a beautiful high school. We spent some time there, met with a student there who was so happy.
Yeah, excuse the graphic photos, but I mean, it's very important because Joseph and I weren't lucky enough to actually visit this place, but the Ugandan delegation group, they actually got to see and visit the museum of the Ugandan martyrs. And so here's Mother Laurel, and these are just some of the images and artwork that are captured there.
Let's go to this.
Oh, this is us in our
That's where our car
our
was.
sad bus. No, you know what? This is actually I think on our way to Murchison Falls, where this is just us getting stuck in the mud. But I do have a photo of that bus breaking down.
Here's you, Justin.
Yeah. that's the motion fall in Uganda. It was a lot of beautiful area. We had a lot of fun there. Through this falls, elephant. Yeah, we had a story about elephants bull that was shy and trying to come to our vehicle, and we went in the evenings. It blocks our way, and it's narrow. You cannot do a U-turn. So what we have to do, we have to just pray that the elephant will stop, but keep coming. Luckily, we have a guard from the wildlife conservation. He knows what to do. Everyone was screaming because as he get closer, he can just slap the whole vehicle and everyone's screaming. So the guy went out and stepped down, started whistling and clapping his hand, and then gradually the elephant moved away from the road. So it was a very scary situation.
I mean, it was kind of cool for me. I mean, I was kind of scared, but it was also pretty cool to see the elephant up close. I think Laurel put it best. She said, Lord, if you're trying to humble us, let it not be in this way. So it just fingers crossed and prayers all around, and the elephant left.
Okay, this is Tanzania.
This one is actually, I heard they were catching grasshoppers, cone-shaped thing.
Yeah, that's what grasshopper. It's grasshopper is like delicacy or something. Yes.
Our infamous night.
Yeah. And then Father Colin had to learn some, so I hear the trend. Then what we say 1, 2, 3, and then we say trend. So he learned to say that words. It was nice. It was the bus is now broke down, and there's a lot of we were so scared of this bus, and a lot of things. Even when things were falling out from there, they had the TV there broken.
Yeah. This night kind of captures that Good Samaritans helping us on our journey to the refugee camp in Narayisu, and I remember this moment a lot because in that moment you're not really thinking about what God help us, or you say God help us, but you're not really seeing where God is working. And for me, you're seeing the people helping you, but there's a lot that's also happening in the background that you're not seeing. After we finished this, we came back to the U.S. and I sat for a moment and I remembered someone said that we got lucky to have broken down where we were, because they said if we had gone even further ahead, there would be no one even around to help us. And I heard that in the next town over, there were some gangs or whatever. So I said, what luck, what God's grace to have us break down here in this perfect place with these people who are kind and they're willing to help us.
Yeah, and our estimate as far how long the distance was far off. We thought it was going to be, we were told it was going to be a trip of 8 hours, 12 hours the most by road, but it took us almost the whole day. We slept on it.
24 hours.
Yeah, and there was a lot of road that was not paved, and that's why, when we can see all of it, we're very dusty. It took so long, and our estimate was not okay. Yeah, but luckily we went to visiting Camp Yaragusu also after we arrived there. People was like, that's where we spend the whole day. The church services is not just only hours or 2, it's a whole day. Because people in the camp, they have nothing to do. The only day that they have something to do is Sunday. So that they will be worshiping, praying for God. And many of them has lived in the camp for 20 years, or even more than 20 years. And some of them were born in the camp, they grew up, all they know is that camp. And when you talk about the camp, it's like a small village, but you don't have freedom of going anywhere. So all you hope for one day, I may go back to my own country, live again there, or if I'm lucky, I'm going to be resettled somewhere like the United States. And one of the things, I don't know if you have a photo, one of the members of our delegation, Blasi, his entire family was still there at the camp. And they wanted to stay there the whole night. But for security reason, the UN and people who were in charge of camp, they said it was hard for us to even enter the camp. They didn't want to let us into the camp. And they only gave us 3 hours, but we stayed for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
And
We were pushing it.
and these family members were like holding on to Blasi. He gave all the money that he has in his pocket. The family was crying. People are very desperate. It's a situation where you just stay there. You don't have anything. You just pray and say Allah Kareem.
Yeah. Say Allah Kareem. This is me in Tanzania having fun.
So yeah, Tanzania also, if you want to share a little bit about boat ride in Tanzania.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. You know,
zebras and stuff.
Joseph, I forgot what island we were going to.
Which one?
It was the one with the chimpanzees.
Yeah. So we went to the place called Guma Park.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So then it's one of the places where, like, if you heard about the scientist, the lady Jane Goodall,
Yeah.
she's the one who found that area. So then she had like where she was feeding the chimpanzee and all the area. So we went to visit that area there.
Yeah, it was a fun day. I mean, it was one of those days where we kind of took a day off, so we got to explore Tanzania some more. We went to the market. We had the opportunity to visit that island and to have a tour guide take us on a hike where we actually got to see the chimpanzees and their natural habitat. And you know, we went on a boat ride there, and at some points I thought we'd flip over, but alligator, we didn't.
Yeah, and what I was thinking when we were going that Lake Tanganyika is the second deepest lake in the world after Lake Baikal in Russia. So if we go down, they're not going to find us anymore.
It's good. We were responsible. We were wearing our lifeboats, our life jackets.
So yeah, that's all we have for you. And then if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer all your questions. And thank you so much.
Yeah, so what countries are the refugees from in the refugee camp that you went to?
Yes, in Nyarugusu, most of them are Congolese and Burundians, and I think we have some from, do you have from Rwanda? But I think it's mostly, yeah.
And how many people are in the refugee camp?
The refugee camp is actually a city. It's, the estimate according to UN was like 150,000. They have a school, they have all the stuff, but the only thing they just leave them somewhere around. They cannot go anywhere unless with permission from UNHCR. Yeah, it's the second largest camp in Africa after another camp in Kenya called Kakuma refugee camp. So Nyarugusu is the biggest.
And the refugees cannot go home because they were on the wrong side of the war, or is that like okay?
Yeah, they can't go home because there's actually no home anymore. Like it's all the home being destroyed, and then also the situation that forced them to flee has not changed. So that's why you know there's a term used, refugee warehousing. They just stay there for many years, hoping that one day when there's peace and political solution in their own country, they can go back. Otherwise, some of them, there is no solution. The only solution is to resettle. But of course, no country is going to take that many refugees. United States take a lot of refugees, but cannot take home everywhere in the world.
Are we still taking refugees from there?
Yes, the number of refugees that were settled went down a lot during Trump's presidency. So it was almost close to only less than 10,000 or 7,000. But I don't know right now, I have not been, since I left my job as refugee, I don't follow closely, but last year, this year, the United States is supposed to resettle 100,000 refugees. That's what we call ceiling. But usually when we come to reality, with all the processing, sending UN officials to go overseas, interview them, prepare them, do the background check, and take years. Sometimes we end up maybe, a lot of people maybe be like 30 or 50,000. Yes?
Well, that's really quite a story of inspiration, faith in your journey, like I say. And I'm just wondering what is the way to make it better, like person by person? I mean, like in Uganda, the churches are up, there's not much international aid. What do you see as a prognosis? Do you think that try to improve the situation through the churches and through individuals?
Yeah, that's a good question. This situation requires a lot of coordination. It would take good sound from anywhere to come and help the people, and then also working with other parties where they can see what can they do in terms of working with the government to help the situation. For example, those refugees in the IDP in Mangala, South Sudan. There are some refugee agencies there, but the only support that they provide is very limited. And even also, as the conflict goes there, it's very complicated because some of them cannot find a place. Some other community would complain, why do you bring people in our land here? And these people are getting something and we don't get something. But as in church or community, what I think is having a partnership with a group there. There are so many organizations, churches who are doing a great job there. So few people can say, a church can have a trip like what St. did, or individuals can go and meet with some people and be able to see what they can change something, helping other refugees there.
Do they have food delivery?
Yeah, they have. UN, most of the camp has UNHCR, United States Agency for Refugee, where they provide food. But other places, they just give a refugee a piece of land, so that which is more. There's two benefits on that. First, they can cultivate, they live like they were their original area because if they were farmers, they can farm, they can grow their own food. But it's limited. Other places where it's big like Naraguso, they have limited resources. You can only provide, many of them only get one meal a day. They give you a small quantity of food for 1 week, but you can actually add in 2 days. And then the rest of the day that you just don't have anything to eat. Then.
In the refugee camp, you mentioned at school. How much education is available, especially
In refugee camp there are schools, but it's the highest levels they can go to secondary school, the high school. Not all the refugee camp has high school. They only go to middle school, but several years back, they decided to, some government agencies and NGOs help some camps have high school. Like Kakuma refugee camp have high school. Many of the lost boys who came through that has some basic education. Some of them are very successful now. Some of them has PhD from all this little education that they did in the camp. But most of the camp they don't have. The only thing that is primary education. You go to Form 6, 7, that's it. And then you end up doing anything what you wanted to do sometime. There's no hope. Yeah, it's really tough. Yes?
Do girls have equal access to education as boys?
No, unfortunately for most of the places, there's a lot of things. So girls, they don't have equal access. There's also gender violence, and there's early marriages. So family, in part of their tradition, they marry off their daughters as young as 15, 16, or even 14, so that they can get wealth to survive. And it's cool. UN is trying to work with many government to make some reform so the girls can go to school, but there's no equal education. Most of the girls are, at least what they have in their mind, like I'm praying maybe I get married and that's what they, unfortunate situation, they don't have any more opportunity. But other countries have started doing more efforts working with UN to provide more opportunity for girls to have like equal access to education, which is it's a working process. It has not changed a lot. Hey, Jess.
I don't have a question, I was just waving.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. So yes, you missed the party.
I missed
But
your party.
anytime you go out and talk to me. So I just want to thank you so much. As I said in the beginning, St. Paul Cathedral has contributed a lot to these trips, and that made it possible. And it was like good experience for young people like Arjun to be able to meet with their family and reconnect with the people. For myself to go back and see the people that I've left many years. It was a great opportunity and privilege, and I want to thank you again for inviting us to speak here today, and thank you so much.